Hello, this is Richard Harvey, and welcome to this second walkthrough for Sångara, the collection of Southeast Asian instruments I've created with orchestral tools. In this video, we're going to look at the percussion instruments in Sångara. We've put together a huge variety of instruments, from drums and cymbals to tuned percussion such as metallophones and xylophones. We're starting out with the Grong family of drums. Most of these drums are traditionally played as part of a small mixed ensemble ranging from a duo up to around 12 players. So these are expressive drums, not war drums or ensemble drums. Very organic in sound, with not a plastic head in sight. We start with one of the most venerable. The Grong tat is a fairly large barrel drum, and they are normally used in pairs. These two drums are played using large wooden sticks, and they are traditionally used in ceremonial music of Thailand and Cambodia. These two slightly different drums are matched one octave apart from each other. You'll get a selection of single hits, rolls and dynamics. The Grong seng is a large rope-tensioned drum from the Isan region of Thailand that has quite a big sound, and it's used for sacred ceremonies dedicated to good harvests. The Grong tuque is a smaller barrel drum, rather like a miniature Grong tat. These drums are always used on a stand due to their small size. At this point, a quick word, if I may, about the sound. All the instruments in Sångara were captured dry in a medium-sized studio space with 5 different mic positions. It's a close-up sound that carries a lot of detail, and it lets you apply your own processing so they sit as you would like them to in your mix. Note that we've added a little bit of reverb here for these demonstrations. The next instrument in this family is the Wong Ya. The name means long drum, and that's exactly what it is. Single-headed and vented at the lower end, it's usually played by one side, while hung over the shoulder. Grong literally means foreign drum, and they were probably originally from Java, even though they are Thai drums. They are considered sacred drums and are used on very auspicious occasions. They are always used as a pair. The two drums, called female for the slightly higher pitched one and male for the deeper one, are struck with hands to produce a characteristic ringing sound. These are also quite often used to accompany Muay Thai boxing matches. The Mangok is a set of 7 differently tuned long drums with musical pitches. They are set up in a beautifully carved outer casing, and it's generally referred to as a Thai drum circle. There is a very similar Burmese drum circle, so they are virtually interchangeable. The tapon is another barrel-shaped drum played with both hands while sat on the floor and used to keep time in small mixed ensembles in Thailand and Cambodia. We also recorded a variation of these drums played with fingers, as it can also be played this way to good effect. These two playing styles give you some nice variations in sound, from a more full to a very delicate and light tone, which is great for adding movement to your pieces. The Isan drum is, as the name already suggests, a drum native to the Isan region of northeastern Thailand. This is a tapering single-headed drum made from hardwood with a very heavy cowhide playing head. The Sångara is yet another longish double-headed barrel drum, rather like the klongkek. There were two different drums recorded to give you a great variation in sound. The last Thai drum in this selection is called a Mahori drum. This is a goblet drum, looking a little like a darabuka but with a deeper, rounder tone. It is used in royal ceremonies and also the traditional Mahori music, which accompanies very stylized dancing. Now, concluding the drum folder is a collection of differently tuned and sized frame drums called the rebana drums of Indonesia. The drums themselves originate from all over Asia, so we set out to sample 3 different sizes of the drums. The description of small, medium and big don't necessarily mean that these drums sound that way though. They have much thicker heads than Western frame drums, so for example, take note of the surprisingly deep, resonant sound of the smaller rebana drums. In the percussion section, you'll find various small instruments from different countries in Southeast Asia. Starting with the not-so-small Kentongan. These are a set of 8 different-sized instruments. They are bamboo slit drums that were originally used for long-distance communication through mountainous jungle terrain. The main drum used in this collection was so large that we sampled it first with 2 players, one on each end, to give you a good variation in sound. These drums were used to play different rhythmical patterns to communicate alerts between remote communities. For example, To indicate a fire, people would play 3 hits, then a pause, and then another 3 hits. Other patterns were used to indicate and warn against floods, storms, or even invaders. You get the idea. These sounds really carry. We watched these being made by local craftsmen from 12-centimetre diameter seasoned bamboo. The Grong is the Thai equivalent of the largest Kentongan, but larger still. Around 2 meters long, it uses the lengths of bamboo between the joins or nodes to create very resonant slit drums. Always played using 3 players, it's used for dancing and singing at festival time. Always outdoors because it's so very loud. It cuts through anything, including a 90-piece orchestra. Trust me, I've tried it. To cover the cymbals, we recorded the Balinese cheng cheng. This is a set of small, heavy brass cymbals overlapping each other to create a dynamic splashing sound. Looking like a contented golden tortoise, this is the driving force and timekeeper of the Balinese gamelan, a kind of quadruple hi-hat, but much louder. We now come to the magic box of auxiliary percussion. In the instrument layout, you'll find all different kinds of hand percussion, toys and smaller percussion. From Thai frogs to various versions of woodblocks, stick hits, cymbals and clappers. Most important of them all, round about the middle of the keyboard, we have the ching, the key timekeeper for all traditional Siamese, Laotian and Cambodian music. The open ringing sound is always on beats 1 and 3, and the closed sound on beats 2 and 4. The Metallophones folder consists of 7 different tuned instruments. The tuned gongs are, as the name suggests, a set of brass or bronze gongs. The large suspended gongs cover a size range from around 24 inches down to about 12. They are all tuned. These are usually only played as single hits with soft mallets and allowed to ring out in full. The tuned bowls comprises almost my entire collection of small prayer bowls, which were gathered together over several decades. Played with harder and softer versions of the heavy stick designed specifically for these bowls, I'm very happy with the integrated and very usable keyboard instrument we've made here. The instrument you just heard was the Kong Wong lek. Kong is the Thai way of saying gong, and lek means small, and this is 1 octave higher than the Kong Wong Ya that you will see next. This is a collection of kettle gongs set up in a circle. The player sits in the middle and plays these gongs with hard and soft mallets, and occasionally with the hands. The Thailand, Laotian and Cambodian version is the classic gong circle. The Burmese version is a more vertical circle, and in Indonesia the small kettle gongs are always mounted in a straight line, but it is the universal sound of Southeast Asia. The Kong Wong Yai is a part of the same family. The word yai means large, so the name Wong Ya essentially means mother of all gong circles. The instrument sampled here is a custom-made set of gongs, which has a range of 2 octaves and a third, and is fully chromatic. It was made for me in the workshop of the craftsmen who make the instruments for the Royal Court of Thailand, and it's the only one of its kind in the world. The handpan is a tuned instrument, close and probably developed from the steel drum. It's an instrument that has been adopted all over Asia, rather than coming from there. It sounds very ethereal, serene and meditative. No Southeast Asian collection would be complete without it. Now let's hear the steel tongue drum. This instrument has a sound quite close to that of the handpan and is played in the same way, but the sound is created using tongues of metal cut out of the playing surface, rather than the very thin hammered domes of the handpan. The Javanese gender is quite similar in pitch and sound to a Western vibraphone, but is constructed from brass plates that are a lot thinner and suspended on a string over the resonating tubes. The gender is the beating heart of the gamelan orchestra, the equivalent of the viola section in a Western orchestra. We have included several gamelan instruments here, so we can make a really good emulation of that sound with this collection, but a full gamelan, Javanese and Balinese set would make a huge collection just by itself. The Javanese Saron fulfills the role of the glockenspiel in the gamelan orchestra. The bars are very big and made of very heavy brass that can be hit very hard. They normally rotated the notes around the traditional pelog and slentem scales used in Java. It sounds quite bright, yet has a very warm and resonant foundation. The Ranat Lek is the Thai equivalent of the Javanese gender. It's always found in the closest equivalent that Thailand has to the gamelan orchestra, an extended pipat ensemble. It has only been around since the mid-1800s, so it's a relative newcomer. The notes look like gold bars, and they sound like that too. The Javanese Chalong is a marimba-like instrument using the entire tube of the bamboo plant, cut to length but not cut into thin flat plates. This comes from the Sunda region of Western Java and is made in the same workshops as are the famous Anlongs near the beautiful city of Bandung, which is where, on a fine day in the late 90s, I sourced this rare chromatic version. The Thai Anlongs and Indonesian Anlongs are two versions of the same instrument coming from these different countries. Normally they have slightly different spellings, but will keep the names similar in the collection for the sake of clarity. While the Thai Anlongs are usually tuned to the almost whole-tone Thai scale and have a slightly softer sound, the Indonesian ones are nearly always brighter sounding and pentatonic in their tuning. We used a smaller Javanese set here because it has a very even set of tones throughout the chromatic octave range. The Anlong is traditionally used in large ensembles, played outdoors, and the characteristic sound is that very vibrant tremolo. The Ranat and Ranat are two mallet xylophone-like instruments made out of wood, usually mahogany or rosewood in the case of the Ranat and more often large bamboo in the case of the deeper Ranat. The notes of these instruments are suspended, hanging over the boat-shaped wooden resonator, so that the bars arch down in the centre of the instrument and raise up at the edges, which eases the accessibility to these notes for the player, who is always sitting cross-legged on the floor. These xylophones are the undisputed kings of Thai, Laotian and Cambodian music, often played with virtuosity that almost defies belief. The Pong Lang is similar in build to the Ranat instruments, but the notes are always made from a very thick, round hardwood and is always played standing up. The notes are made vertical rather than lateral, and the instrument is normally played outdoors as it's unbelievably loud when played hard. It's native to the Isan region of Thailand and western Pratet Lao. And now we come to the last two percussion instruments in this tuned collection, the Danda and the Trung. The Trung is basically the Vietnamese version of the Pong Lang, although it sounds much more like the Chalong as it's made from bamboo, whereas the Danda is a Vietnamese lithophone made, as the name suggests, from stone. It's one of the oldest instruments in the world, with museums having examples that are well over 2,000 years old. Thanks for watching our walkthrough for the percussion instruments in Sångara, the second of 3 Sångara walkthrough videos. Join us again on the third walkthrough, which covers the stringed instruments of this collection.